Well, I could sit here and say that the game went exactly as I expected, given the fact that I did predict that the game would finish 3-0. But this game has been won and lost initially. And it has to be initially because a lot happened after the two incidents. But for me, this game was won and lost on two key decisions made by two completely different people, of which one of them is absolutely, completely wrong. And another which, the more and more and more I see it, the more I think it could be wrong after initially thinking it was right. And obviously we will start with that one first, and that is the penalty decision. Now, when I first saw it in live play, I thought that could be a penalty. When I saw the replays, I thought they have to give it. And it just... it's really hard to put into words the right feelings, because if it's at the other end, I'm sitting here going absolutely ballistic, saying it has to be a penalty. The arms are crossed. He's blocked him from running into the box, and he's made him go down. But again, the more you look at it, the more you think, well, Rodri's absolutely looking for it. The more you think Højlund has stuck his arm out, but he's not actually grabbed him. He's not pulled his shirt. He's not actually yanked him down. He's just left an arm out. Rodri's run into the arm and fallen over. But like I say, you watch the replays and you see what VAR looked at, and I just think they couldn't not give it, if that makes sense. I think given all the hoo-ha about major decisions in massive games over the last few weeks, I just don't think VAR couldn't not give that. Because if they had actually not given that, it just opens the whole can of worms again about officiating and making the big decisions and bottling the big decisions. And I think for their sake, they have just about got it right. But then it opens a different can of worms about the whole level of consistency again. Because an incident like that happens in every single Premier League game, be it from a free kick or a corner. It at least happens once. I saw one yesterday with Jamal Lascelles putting both arms around, I think it was Kalajdzic for Wolves. And Kalajdzic made the decision to fling his arms in the air and fall over. Whereas Rodri actually used his brain and just went down with the motion of Rasmus Højlund, therefore making it look more like a penalty. Whereas in reality, I think those two incidents are exactly the same. And then later on in the same half, or might have even been the second half, Haaland's wrestling with Maguire. That's a bit of handbags, but at the end of it, Haaland makes a move into the box and Maguire does wrestle him to the floor. So you've got to ask the question that if the first one is given, why is the second one not given? And if the first one is given, why wasn't Kalajdzic given a penalty yesterday? And it is a problem, but I do think they have got the decision correct in the actual moment to give Manchester City a penalty there. So that was the first decision. Other than that, I actually think in the first half, we didn't do too badly. It was quite clear that we had a game plan, which was McTominay plays on Rodri. Whatever happens, Rodri is not allowed to get involved in Manchester City's build-up because we know that Rodri is the initiator. He's the one that gets the ball from the defence and then gets all those creative players into the game. The key to stopping Manchester City is to stop Rodri. It always has been since he's come into the side. And I've said it on multiple occasions on this channel. If it was down to me, Rodri would win the Ballon d'Or this year because he is so integral and was so crucial in Manchester City winning that treble. And in the first half, we stopped Rodri from playing. There was only really one incident in that entire first half where Manchester City probably should have scored, which was the Haaland header at the back post, where we marked him relatively well, but he was still able to get in above Lindelof, and it's a good save from Onana. At half-time, we then come to the second decision. And this is quite possibly the single worst decision that Erik ten Hag has made in his managerial career at Manchester United. I kind of pride myself on making tactical decisions. If you didn't know, I do play a lot of EAFC, formerly FIFA. I play a lot of reasonably high-level competitive matches on that game. And I pride myself on making tactical decisions where I see that there's been a problem that needs to be addressed. And for me, the issue in the first half was Dalot was being isolated. Bruno Fernandes wasn't offering significant cover to Diogo Dalot, and at times they were actually getting on top of each other, which was allowing an overload of Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva, and sometimes Gvardiol as well, essentially 3v1ing or 2v1ing Dalot. So for me, at half-time, I would have taken Bruno Fernandes off, and I don't care if his name's Bruno Fernandes, and he's our best player, and he's our captain. Bruno Fernandes wasn't offering anything to the game. The plan was working of McTominay sitting on Rodri, so the smartest thing to do was to take Bruno Fernandes off and put Antony on the right-hand side to give us more balance, to balance Rashford and Antony on either side, and give Dalot the sufficient cover he needs to sort out that right-hand side, Manchester City's left-hand side. Instead, he takes Amrabat off and puts Mason Mount on. Moves McTominay into the sitting position and then tells Mount to deal with Rodri. Leaves Bruno Fernandes out wide, and from the moment that second half kicked off, we were finished. And you can actually watch it happen. In the 47th minute, the first time Manchester City get the ball in the second half, the City defence has it, and Rodri runs off Mason Mount. Something he hadn't been able to do to McTominay for the entire first half. But he runs off Mason Mount, picks up the ball. All of a sudden, there's an issue because now Rodri's in an advanced position, so someone has to cover for him. Someone comes out of position, ball gets played into Bernardo Silva, so now he's in too much space, ball comes into the back post and Foden can't quite sort his feet out, puts the ball over the bar. Less than a minute later, the exact same thing happens again. Mount lets Rodri go, Rodri plays it out wide, there's a little move around, but essentially everyone's now a man out of position. And what happens is the ball ends up in the wide player. I can't remember if it's Bernardo Silva or Grealish. Whoever puts the ball into Haaland. They've now got the ball. Rodri's made his way into the penalty area, which then means that Johnny Evans has to make a decision. Does he stick with Erling Haaland or does he cover the run of Rodri? The problem is Manchester City are just a bunch of world-class players. So they wait for Johnny Evans to make that decision. He decides to go with Rodri, which leaves Haaland unmarked at the back post. Haaland makes it 2-0. But if Johnny Evans sticks with Haaland, that ball gets played into Rodri and Rodri makes it 2-0. It doesn't matter which way that ball goes to. Johnny Evans has been left 2v1 at the back post because Mason Mount has let Rodri go in the build-up because Erik ten Hag has taken McTominay off of Rodri. That decision has cost us the entire second half and the rest of the game. From 2-0 down against Manchester City, I don't think... Has anyone come back from 2-0 down against Manchester City since Pep Guardiola's been in charge? Let me know in the comments. But the game was done. It was absolutely done. And yes, we did have other chances from that point. Rashford absolutely 100% had to score that chance after that phenomenal ball from Christian Eriksen. Brings it down. He's got to score. He's got to at least hit the target. And he puts it wide. It's just a real show of his lack of confidence at the moment. And unfortunately, lack of confidence is just, I think, the best way of summing up some of these players at the moment. They want too much time on the ball. They don't feel comfortable in the style of play that they're playing. And they said it on Match of the Day, I think it was the other day. Manchester United don't have an identity at the moment. You look at all the teams in and around the top of the table. Tottenham, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Brighton. They've all got an identity. We know what we're going to get from them. They might not execute it perfectly every time, but we know what we're going to get from them. This Manchester United side, we don't know what we're going to get from them. And it's just rubbing off on the players. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They take far too many touches. There are so many opportunities to put balls in the box towards Højlund. He's making movements and he's just not getting the service because Dalot wants to take 3 touches before putting the ball into the box. Bruno Fernandes either wants to do a skill or take 2 touches before putting the ball into the box or inevitably shooting. Eriksen was the only one that was putting it in consistently, but he was once again playing far too deep. So it's got to be figured out. And that is what's costing us at the moment. We're just dawdling on the ball too much because we're not set in how we're supposed to be playing. And that is reflective of the manager. That is the responsibility of the manager to build an identity, build a style of play. And yes, we've lost players through injury. Varane clearly wasn't fit enough to start the game today. Shaw's been injured for too long. Malasia's been injured for too long. Martinez is going to be out till after Christmas. Wan-Bissaka's been out till probably after Christmas. We've not had the back line settled, but that's no excuse for the attack. We have the attackers available to us, with the exception of Sancho, which is a whole nother can of worms for another video on another day. But our attack should be settled. There should be a style of play, and it's just not there at the moment. And then what happens is finally, from all of that, because we're unsettled, because we go 2-0 down, then Captain Marvel Bruno Fernandes decides, I've had enough of this. I'm now just going to start moaning and whinging and having a pop at everyone in a red shirt and having a kick at everyone in a blue shirt. That is not captain material. I'm going to keep banging on about it. I said it in the summer. I love Bruno Fernandes, and I think technically he is the best footballer at Manchester United. He is the single worst choice to be captain of Manchester United. And until that is resolved, the other issues aren't going to be resolved, as far as I'm aware, because you've got to look at what happened. He started kicking players, and then Anthony goes, if the captain's kicking players, I can kick players as well. So he lashes out at Doku, who he probably should have been sent off for it, by the way. It's no attempt to play the ball. He just whacks Doku. And I think he should have been sent off for it because it's petulant and it's childish and it's just rubbing off from Bruno Fernandes to everyone else. It's okay to moan because the captain's going to moan. And it happened from minute one. Straight away, Jack Grealish was in Bruno Fernandes' ear. There was an incident about a throw-in. Who should have got the throw-in? Bruno threw a wobbly and Grealish started laughing at him and nattering in his ear and Bruno fling his arms away. That was the second minute of the game. About 20 minutes into the game, Grealish goes up for a header. Bruno has no intention of playing the ball and just clatters Grealish, elbow first in the side and flattens him. Then comes over to him and has the nerve to say, sorry mate, I didn't mean it. Watch the replay. He's got his eyes purely on Grealish. That's 20 minutes into the game before City have even scored. And that attitude and that mindset is just infecting every other player in the team right now to the extent that they just all think they can get away with it. And I just don't know where we go from here. If it was up to me, firstly, he should be removed from the captaincy and it should be given to someone who's got a much calmer head and much more responsibility. Personally, I don't know who that is right now. I'd probably still give it McTominay because I think he is the most Manchester United style player and the most passionate player about the club and knowing what the right thing to do is at the moment. Although his performance today, especially in that second half when he went back into the deeper lying role, probably doesn't warrant him having a starting place next week. But then I thought he played really well in the first half, keeping Rodri out of the game and was unlucky on a couple of occasions not to score. So for me, it'd probably be him. But Bruno needs to be stripped to the captaincy, and I'd also give him a rest. I just think he needs to be taken out of the team. I think he needs to be settled. I think he needs to be calmed down. And I think the team will actually benefit a little period of time without Bruno Fernandes in the team, whereby we can start developing that identity, play two wingers, use Højlund as someone that we can feed the ball into, and then start developing our chances from there. And that's something else that I'm going to end on, by the way. In that first half, we hit balls from Onana or from Evans or from Maguire into Højlund. And Ruben Diaz didn't like it. Højlund was causing him all sorts of problems. He was backing in, he was being aggressive, he was being physical. He was allowing the likes of Bruno, McTominay and Rashford to get into the game. That's where the chances were coming from. It was the ball from Onana into Højlund. After Man City scored, I don't think we attempted that pass for the rest of the game. It was like, all right, City have scored, let's just keep it ourselves. Let's just start passing it round the back again. Onana to Maguire, to Evans, to Onana, to Lindelof, to Onana. The ball to Højlund is on so many occasions, but they just refuse to play it, and I don't understand why. It was our best outlet in that first half, and it just stopped after City scored, and we just didn't attempt it for the entirety of the second half. So, answers on a postcard, please. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. It's been a rough day. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the actual result. I expected to lose, and as I said at the start of the video, I predicted 3-0, so I'm not surprised that we lost 3-0. But, as always, it's the manner of the defeat. It's the attitude of the players. It's the style of the performance. It's the way we conceded the goals that we conceded. And, unfortunately, right now, I think the two biggest culprits that need to start being held accountable are the manager and the captain. And that's not me saying the manager should be sacked. That's just me saying that he needs to spend a lot of time building an identity because the big games are coming thick and fast. Newcastle in the Cup on Wednesday. Big Premier League game next weekend. Champions League the midweek after that. Our season could realistically be over in the next 3 weeks. We're already way off it in the Premier League now after today's result. Not that we were in it anyway. We can't afford to lose to Newcastle and crash out of that tournament. And we absolutely cannot afford to crash out of the Champions League. So big couple of weeks for Erik ten Hag. I think he should start playing more of the youngsters. I think he needs to start building a proper identity at Manchester United. And we'll see where we go from there. Thank you very much for watching.